Hey everyone, Joe Menza here, and I'm going to show you something really neat that I received for free. And this is the Kraftgeek Easel. It's a tripod, but really it's an easel. But that works as a tripod. If you've bought any tripods like I have, I've probably got 4 or 5 of these things laying around. They're very rickety, and they're not really made for art. Honestly, they're tripods for cameras. So here I'm going to take off the sleeve that I just showed you and go into the box. This is a very high quality item. Comes in a nice packaging box, great for gift giving. Here's a quick start guide. I love these because if you don't want to read the entire manual and you just want to get up to business, these are great. And then they give you a little booklet in here if you want to get a little deeper into it. In other languages, of course. And that's the little booklet. And then we get into the tripod. Now this thing is, it's light for carrying around, but it's also not light. It feels solid in your hand. It's not lightweight. Let's put it that way. And there's a little screw hole in the top. They sell like a light you could put on there, which I'm almost going to have to get. And then there's these tabs that unfold. So you don't have this on a tripod. You have to like make a board. If you watch one of my earlier videos where I actually make a tripod and I attach the board, especially if you're doing watercolor, which I do, you have to do like that. Now this opens just like this, kind of like a regular tripod. Back open, slides open. There's these nice rails they're metal on there. And it's very, very solid. I mean, this is a solid piece of equipment to add to your tool chest, let's call it. And there's locking feet, and you have to make sure each little section is unlocked. When you lock that, it's solid. So if you're going to use this outside, which I do plan to, it's very, very solid. And then in the middle here, there's a little piece you can hang a bag from, or if you get creative, I'm sure there's a lot of other storage ways you could put that on there. But you slide out each section, you lock it, and it's locked in place solid. Let's look at it here. I've got it fully open. This is a hard video for me to film because I don't usually do this. But here's the locking tab. There's a dial in the back, and then this allows you to lift this up for larger canvas. Now, that's the only thing I will say is this really is for a specific range of sizes. And it's probably best for canvas or canvas panel. But you can use it really for anything. And if you get creative with the board that you put on there, you can, and I'll show you that. Here's the little tabs you can open. So you can see that width across is what you're going to have to put. If you're using very small panels, you're going to have to use a smaller, maybe adapter panel in between. So there it is all the way down to the floor. If you take this outside, here it is with a canvas now I have in here. I think this is like 24 by like 30 or something. And it's very solid. If you're doing canvas on this thing, this is where it really shines. And lock it in place. And this thing's not going to fall down like when I did my plein air and I was trying to do watercolor outside. And that thing just fell over. If you watch that video that I have, the time I tried plein air, I wish I had had this thing, because this thing would be solid. This would be rock solid to pull out of the bag, and it would be impressive, honestly. The only thing you can't do is you can't angle. And I'm going to show you here now. I put the legs back, and I'm going to show you it on the floor here. And it's just easier to show you if I was doing this. Now, this would be great to use on a tabletop, like I was saying. And here is now a canvas panel that's smaller than the top tab. So this is the way I would use it on here. I would probably just set it on here. You could probably put a little piece of tape back there, or you can buy, like, they have easel adapters for smaller canvas that you can buy if you want to, go that route. But don't really need it. It just lays on here, and it's not really going to move. But you could put a little piece of tape back there. And I'm just doing this for, like, people that do smaller, formats. Like, here's a board I have. This board is for clipping paper to, so I can do my watercolor. And if I turn it this way, you see this is long enough. So if you just get a board that you cut to the proper size, then this will become your board for affixing your watercolors to or whatever. So here's one I already painted in my pile over here. So I could stick it on this way. There's tape, and I can clip it on with these clips that I have. Let me turn it this way, and then I'll go ahead and clip this on. So if I was doing watercolor, or I could tape it to this board. That's the other thing, is you can get a big enough board and just put tape all the way around. I'll do that in an upcoming video. I'll have my tape on there, and then I'll show you. I intend to use this outside, a tabletop. So let's say you're painting and you're doing a watercolor or even an acrylic and you want more of an angle. If you set this up with its legs fully extended or in tabletop mode, you're going to have the one continuous angle. But if you take and you put the rear leg shorter to where it's still balanced, you can make this at a slightly different angle. Because, you know, watercolorists, we want to be able to kind of move things at different angles. So you can do that. You can also, you know, obviously you can move it around if you need to, or you can take your board off and you can, you know, you can still tilt things. So you have that option to you. But for the most part, you're going to be painting with this and it's going to be at one angle, you know, as opposed to like a tripod where you're moving your, you know, different angles. You want the water to run. I don't do too much of that anyways. It doesn't really affect me too much. But if I wanted to do this, if I wanted a little bit more of an angle instead of straight down, I could do like this. And then, of course, if you're doing, obviously, if you're doing watercolor too, you can always go flat on your table and do a board like that. But if you're going out, a lot of times people want an easel. And I'm doing acrylics and oils too, so there's, you know, that option. And again, very, very sturdy, you know, good weight behind it. And I don't know, I can't wait to paint something on it, so let's do that now. One quick thing I will say, because someone had asked me about doing a small canvas on here, and the size range really isn't for smaller canvases. However, there's quick little fixes like this. Put a little piece of tape behind the board and have a couple of those bullnose clips on the bottom. It'll sit on there very nicely. So you can do little workarounds like that, and it's worth it for a nice easel like this. The other thing I really want to point out is this little notch that they put in here that you can hang stuff. And I have this 3-chambered bucket here. Handle's a little different, so I put a little piece of wire on there to hold it. But if you have a little thing for, you know, putting your water in or whatever it is that you want to hang from this, you can hang it from there. So here I'm going right into this painting here. I'm doing an oil, and I'm using this particular easel, and I have this sitting next to, I like to sit on my couch and paint, and sometimes even have the TV on in the background. And I have my coffee table, and this is nice because I have it off to the side and I don't have the legs at full length. And I can attach my camera on my arm to my table next to that. And then on my regular table, I can have my paints. So that really is a nice advantage for me. I'll probably be painting on this easel every day. I have my other easel you can see in the background, but in order to go over there, I either have to stand up or sit down on my other chair, which isn't as comfortable, but it's nice to have the option to go sit over there off in the corner. But I like to sit a little bit lower, and this is pretty nice. So I'm using water miscible paints here, and these are the Artisan from Winsor and Newton, and I really like these, and they work to me like the cleanup and the using water on the brush. It's a lot like watercolor. It's a nice transition if you're doing watercolor and you have any thoughts of doing another medium. Acrylic is easy because when you do acrylic, it's water-based anyways by default. So adding water, there's just different ranges you could do with that. You can use more water and use it like watercolor, or you can use it straight out of the tube thick. Now with this particular thing, you can do the same thing, but I find adding water on the brush, just like watercolor, it really helps move the paint around. So what I've done here is I've attached this little card on top just so you can see, and I've put a few of the sky colors on there. I have French ultramarine blue, and I have titanium white. I put black up there. I actually like Payne's gray better, but as long as you mix it with blue, for me, it works okay. And then I have a magenta. Now, when you go by, if you want to start off, because I'm all about the, economy of something, especially when you first start out, you can buy a set, and they're small tubes. They're almost like the size of the Cotman tubes. I'd say between $20 and $30 if you get them on sale, and you'll get all the colors that you need. And they're the Winsor & Newton water miscible. And I'm using the Hake or Hake brush here. Now, I have a lot of extras of these. It might have an effect on your brush that you might not want to use a really good brush. I like using those chip brushes. And then I'm using a canvas panel. So if you go to a place like Michael's and you buy, like a 3-pack of canvas panels, you can use those, and maybe they're probably 3 for, $10 or so. And then you get the paints, $20, $30 you're in for, just to see if you like oils. You could do it on paper too, but if you're using regular watercolor paper, you want to put like a primer of at least acrylic and let it dry on the surface. If you don't use gesso, you can use gesso. You can go to Walmart too, and you can buy, they have a lot of these supplies too. I think Walmart has the Royal Langnickel brand of oil in the small tubes. I haven't used those, but I think they're like less than $10 for the set of paints. And then you can buy a couple of small panels. If you can get oil water, how should I say this? There's paper, and I've used Arches, which I really like. There's paper that is made for oil paint that you don't have to gesso the surface. A little more expensive, I think, though, for that paper. So for me, just to get a canvas panel, they're nice and flat. And again, I have this board here. I've used these clips, and I'm holding this on the Kraftgeek Easel, which I'm really liking. This is probably, thank you, Kraftgeek, for sending this. This is probably one of the best things. I've been sent brushes and a lot of other things, but this is probably one of the best things I've actually ever been sent. And I really like it. And I will probably use it as my go-to easel like 99% of the time. I've used a lot of other easels, and or not easels. I've had easels that were good. I mean, I have a Meaden easel; those are good, and a few others. But as far as a portable traveling easel that works like a tripod, I've used actual tripods. There's some out there that are made for more of the plein air watercolor where you can tilt the board and stuff like that. I haven't used those, but I've made my own, and then I've used like tripods. Aluminum tripods they're really made for cameras where you're going to have the camera sitting there and just recording. When you're painting on there, you need it to be stable. And if you go back, like I was saying earlier, and you watch my plein air, I did with plein air, and I just have a clip of it, the whole thing fell over. The wind caught it and everything because it's just so lightweight. And this, it'd have to be pretty windy to knock this thing over. And then the fact you can lock in each section of the tripod legs so you can make it any height, which is really nice. The thing I would like to have with this, well, first of all, I want to order that light that they have. They have a light on their page, and that's like a must. And then they should have like a bag. I'd like to encourage the Kraftgeek people to make more things to add on to this. Maybe a board where you can like custom size, so you can come down in size, and then maybe their own bag that you can hang from the hook. I've looked on their website. I don't know if they have that, but you guys make a hook with a bag or some kind of a tray on there that you can use. That would be nice. And I think really that's it. I mean, just to like add on to that. Because I've seen where I have like these pochade boxes where you can buy extra trays that go on the side, or maybe like one of those trays that fit around the legs. That would be really nice too. So, really trick this thing out. But as is, it's really nice. I want to put it in like a bag, like those bags you carry, those, those chairs that you go, like when you go to watch like a, T-ball or something, they have these chairs, or you're going to go to a picnic and they fold up, they're telescopic and they fold in. One of those bags would be perfect to put this into, just to protect the thing itself. You can throw it in your regular bag, but then it's kind of moving around, and you want to keep it nice. So like a bag, you guys make the whole kit, the bag, the light, the board, and the thing that hangs, and make that into a whole thing. And I'll be the first in line to buy. So what I've done here, I've made this mountain background. I like to use a dark purple color. And then I'm taking off a little bit of the paint here. Just because when you go to like put paint over paint on oil, and you go over the top of it, it'll stick better if there's less paint underneath than the amount that you're putting on top. So you can take a paper towel and you can blot a little off, or you can take a brush and, take a little bit off from there, and that really helps. This is a scene, I was in Colorado, and I'm actually referencing a picture, but there's these mountains called the Flatirons in Colorado. They're kind of like stone on one side looking almost, and then there's some foliage on there. I'm making a scene from my photo, but I'm actually putting snow on there because I like snow-capped mountains. They're just fun to do. And I wasn't there in the wintertime. Maybe they do get snow-capped. I'm not sure. I'd have to look up some photos of it. But so the trick here is that you haven't seen is that before I started painting this, actually a couple of weeks ago, I used my sand gel medium, and if you've watched my acrylic videos, you'll see where I take this Liquitex sand gel medium and I apply it to the entire surface. Well, what I did was I knew I was going to do a mountain scene, so I took the sand gel medium and I shaped it like a mountain. And I also did the bottom very textured. And if you've ever done these kind of paintings and you've tried to do the snow on a mountain where you break it from the knife so that the snow breaks, sometimes it's hard, and if you do too hard or you get off a little bit, you won't see the break. Well, the reason you're seeing it here is because I have that sand gel medium on there fairly thick. So when I run the knife across there, it's hitting all the bumps that are already there. You know me, when I'm doing painting videos or painting, I want it to be the easiest possible way, interesting ways, things that make it easy and looser so you're not really working too hard at what you're doing, and it's a fun technique. And I wanted to take oils and do that, and acrylics and do that. That same thing that I've been working on over the years of watercolor, where you can do it fast and loose and in a short period of time. I thought I could do that with acrylics and oils. Oils is a little more challenging because of the drying factor and so forth, but they look so nice when you do it, as you can see here. Now I'm making like a shadow color, and I'm applying that with the knife. And again, I have that texture down, which is making this way easier to just apply to. I'm hitting that with the palette knife. So these you don't really have to struggle with, like, there is that preparation beforehand, and you don't have to make it into a mountain shape. You can go over the whole thing, and you can take and if you watched that other video where I show where I'm applying it, you can apply it in a variety of different ways. It's like impasto, where you have a thick surface. You can take the brush and mash it in like head on, or you can just go over it in brush strokes, and you'll get different textural effects. And it just helps. It makes your painting just look more, I don't know if it's depth or just gives it a little element of realism because you're adding more data when you look at the picture. So if you're adding little bits of data for the eyes to take in, it gives more information where you look at it and you either say, that's interesting in your subconscious, or you're putting together the picture, or it looks realistic to the point to where the mind enjoys that massage of, hey, this is neat what I'm looking at. It looks kind of real. What is it? The mind likes to kind of analyze and figure out what it's looking at. And if it takes you a second, like a puzzle, this is why so many people like puzzles, is it makes you think. It's like, massage for the brain. It's almost kind of like these ASMR videos where like you hear scratching and little noises and it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's like a massage for the brain. So for these trees that are in front, now what I've done there is I've taken like a fan brush. I've made up a little bit of green and I used my fan brush and turned it sideways to make these little trees just by pressing in a dark green. So I used one of the greens that were in that set and a little bit of black. The greens that are in there sometimes are a little too loud. So I'll use those, but I'll tone them down using either black or, mixing it in with something else. Not straight out of the tube though. So now I have this other interesting brush. It's the bristles on there are very, they're not soft. They're very stiff. And so I'm using the side of the brush. Very important. When I first started doing watercolor, your inclination is to use a brush like you're painting a wall or a fence or something. And you're almost, holding the brush straight up and down and kind of just going up and down with the brush. When you're doing painting, most of the time with flats or, brushes like that, you're really using the side of the brush. Unless you're doing like with the Hake brush, you make it a very chiseled edge and you're trying to do a straight line. But for the most part, you're using the side of the brush. So taking this brush to do grass and just sort of tapping it in there, it's almost like printing. You're making an impression of the side of the brush. So if you think you can't paint, how do I paint grass? How do I do this? How do I, all you have to do is take this brush and tap it on there and let the brush actually make its impression and mark, and mix it up a little bit. Put a little green, a little yellow, a little white, mix and make different shades of it going around. And before you know it, you'll have this sort of field that looks realistic. Not all one color. Look, I'm making a little green, different little shades of green with this. Yellow, blue, Payne's gray, even a little yellow ochre. Okay, so no real reason to watch that whole segment with the grass. You get the idea. Now here I'm going to take some darker shades, and I'm going to now use the brush a little bit more direct and make some foliage here. In my original photo, there's a little bit of a, fir tree or whatever you might want to call it here, and then one over here to the left. And I think it'll be a good jumping off point to have this closer one that's a little bigger and then a little bit smaller, give us a little bit of depth, because this mountain is pretty big. And without having any trees real close up, I mean, you could put one in, but in the picture I didn't have that. So now here I'm just going to take some lemon yellow and do little highlights on these trees. And it's just sort of finding where you think the light would be reflecting off of the tips of the tree branches. So this one's close to being done. It is edited, but I probably put maybe an hour into the main painting and maybe a few minutes doing the gel medium. And now I'm going to just look around where I can do, like I can make these little trees in the picture. They're a little higher here, and just kind of enhance a few little things going around. Maybe put in a couple of rock. There was like a rock, a big rock in the picture. Add a few little more trees over here just to kind of round this out. Here I'm going to add a few lighter trees. You notice as I'm painting with this easel, it's not really moving, and I have this board on here. It's remaining very stable, even on carpet. It's staying very, very stable. And again, you know, I'm economical, and you know, hey, it comes with treating yourself to nice things, you know. Am I going to go outside and paint? Do I want an easel I can move around? Like sometimes I'll go out on my deck. It's a very nice day. Even if I'm not painting plein air, I will go out on my backyard or my deck just because the weather's nice. Maybe I'll throw it in my bag and take it, you know, when I go to work, and on my way home, I can stop somewhere and have a very portable, very stable easel that I can use without opening. Have you ever had one of those French easels? Those things, once you set them up, you don't want to put them away. You just want to like leave it in a corner. Taking those out and setting those up, plein air, it'll take you half an hour just to get it set up, opened, and all that stuff. Plus they're heavy, they're bulky. And then again, you take a tripod, and an aluminum tripod is very, very shaky. So this is like the perfect in-between. Okay, I had darkened up. I didn't really like the way the highlights were falling on this foliage here, so I'm just kind of hitting those again. It's a nice thing about oil is you can scrape it off, or you can, you know, make it darker and then redo it again, you know, and highlight it. I'm going to put a couple rocks down here. I got this color from the package. It's raw umber. It's like a dark brown, and I'm going to put that as sort of the base color of the stone, and then mix a little white with that, or white with a little burnt sienna, and then that'll be the highlight color for the rock. Now that I'm pretty happy with that foliage on the bottom, I'm going to address this sky a little bit. I think I can do a little bit more here. Just a little too much cloud in here. I added a little French ultramarine, little dollop of that. And I'm going to kind of blend that in and kind of make a little more depth back in here. I'm using my fan brush. And I'm blending that in with the hake brush. My very well used hake brush that's now an oil brush. Again, just blending that in. Sorry if my hand is blocking your view. I'm trying to keep it on a little bit of an angle there. Ideally, if I had two cameras and I could switch between the two, I'd have one sort of closer to the canvas, so you can get around that angle. We're not that pro yet, though, but that's okay. Adding a little bit more of the French ultramarine blue. Just putting that right on the canvas out of the tube. See how that kind of opens that up? The mountains were feeling a little crowded out. So that's it for this one. I'm going to leave this one right here and put it in a frame. We'll see how it looks carefully, gently. I don't want to, you know, the paint's still wet. So it's not like an acrylic, you wait 10 minutes and it's dry and you can throw a mat on top of it and show it on camera. But here it is. I've kind of set this on top gently, so there might be a little shadow from the side, but you get the general idea. So again, I enjoyed painting this. I enjoyed talking about these things with you, and I really enjoyed the Kraftgeek Easel. Also, thank you, Kraftgeek, for the wonderful, wonderful easel. And here it is one last time on my table. And I will see you on the next video.